Minutes for WDQC Radio?
WDQC, hang on 1 second.
Okay, thank you.
Find out for you.
Yes.
Lynn Wilson, do you remember us from...
Yes, absolutely.
Want to know if we could get a couple minutes of your time about the budget that we did? That you guys voted for the repeal of the marijuana law? He's already laughing. Listen to that. I'm gonna hit my
Sure, ask me anything you can. Y'all beat me up. That's
No, actually.
No.
Councilman Thomas, first of all, we want to thank you for being the fifth vote to overturn the marijuana ordinance.
Well, in light of the, I was kind of duped into it, so to speak.
Okay, I'm glad you admit that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I got, because the way it was presented to me was that we were going to repeal all of our jailable offenses.
Oh, you mean the budget was, oh, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
We were going to repeal our jailable offenses, and that included the marijuana ordinance. And I'm saying in the spirit of trying to, keep people from losing their jobs and things like that, any little money that will help do that, I would say, okay, I would agree to do that.
Well, regardless of your reasoning, I appreciate that you did that because, in 2006 when you picked up that bandwagon to put that law on our books, a lot of us came down, we tried to convince you and the council that it was not going to work for our city. I don't think it works anywhere for that matter.
No,
but that it would cost us too much money. But
it did not. See, and that was the misnomer there. That's what it was. It really wasn't costing our city what was presented. And I'm going to be talking about this a little more on the floor of council. Again, personally, it was a tremendous benefit in an area that I was concerned with, which was the number of firearms that we were getting off the street as a direct result of it. And the fact that what people thought were going to happen, that folks were going to be being locked up, physically locked up and held in the Justice Center as a result of the law itself, that just did not happen.
Well, see, that's one of the things that I want to approach with you is that there is facts coming from the city. You can find those facts on CincinnatiMarijuanaLaw.com that show the stats of the guns found, that show the stats of arrests, the cost that it was costing the city too much money. And as a matter of fact, as Todd Portune, County Commissioner, pointed out, it was also costing the county too much money also.
Well, but I'm still trying to figure out, where was the cost? Now, my personal investigation determined that the only real cost that it would generate was if we had to get a lab report. That was where the cost was, if we had to present a case before the courts requiring a lab report. And only in a very few instances did we have to actually do that, from my understanding. An individual would be stopped on the street or whatever. He would be taken down to the Justice Center and then sent right back out the door.
Provided they could bail themselves out of jail.
Well, no.
They had to have a bail.
They were given OR bails.
I don't know anybody that got an. There might have been some, depending on judges, but most people that I know had to be bailed out of jail.
No,
that
the
was
sheriff.
The procedure.
Well, no, the sheriff made it very clear, and I knew this for a fact, that an individual was given, he came in, processed, and sent back out the door. They didn't have room in the jails for individuals.
That's right.
So that whatever you were led to believe there is not true, and I have the facts to prove that. And I knew that was going to happen simply because even prior to the passage of the marijuana law, very few minor kinds of offenses did we house people in jail for, simply because we didn't have room, and marijuana was no exception.
Well, part of what takes the time of the officer, though, is to not only first stop the person, do the investigation, but then if they have to arrest them, that is time taken where they have to take them down, book them in, they have to be processed. Everybody at the Justice Center then gets paid to do the processing, goes to the court, they get bailed out. Whether or not they get bailed out or get an OR, they still have to sit in jail till that hearing. So let's say somebody got arrested on a Friday night.
Okay.
They would not even be in front of the judge until Monday. They'd have to sit in jail for those.
That's not true.
They would not even get an OR.
No, that's not true. Let me explain it
go
to you.
ahead. Go ahead.
Simply because I'm a former law enforcement officer and I know how the system works. A judge, if an individual is actually held in the system waiting to hear from a judge, the judges would call, they're on-call judges that the social service folks get the name of the individuals, then they contact the judge who's on call for that period of time during the weekends, make the case for the individual with the judge, and the judge gives the okay to release on OR. And so in other words, what I'm getting at is that very, very seldom in this day and age when an individual just sit in jail on a very minor kinds of offense, such as marijuana, anything like that, simply because of the lack of space. It's just that simple. Now, the other side of that as well, even though you may say, well, it costs the police officer a little bit of time or whatever the case may be.
And the city money for that time.
City money to process that time. Mm-hmm. It's well worth that time when in the first quarter, once I instituted the change, we got over 60-something guns off the street.
The first time only.
The first time.
Did it stop any guns and the gunfire in our streets?
Well, yes, it did.
No, I don't think so.
No, wait a minute. Now, you see, we can argue that because for every gun that's off the streets, that's one gun would not be used in a homicide. You have to accept that. That gun cannot be used. Now, we still have violence. Yeah, we still have gun violence. But we have not reached that point where we had a record number of homicides. We haven't done that. And with the every little effort that we can put forth to get some of these guns off the street, it's well worth it. So.
Well, I think the stats prove, though, that it didn't get the guns off the street. In fact, it did cost the money too much money. So I urge you to go to CincinnatiMarijuanaLaw.com.
Who put that on there? Who did the
that
research?
is the group Citizens for a Safer Cincinnati, and the stats, Councilman, the stats came directly from the Cincinnati Police Department.
Yeah.
The actual stats. Nobody made these stats up. They come from the city stats.
No, but the cost, where'd that come from? Who put the dollar number on
the
it?
Cincinnati Police Department.
Yeah,
you can go to the site and watch and look for all the sources.
Will you give me another interview when I come back with the right numbers?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. Well, the main thing is, though, across the board in our country, and we could go talking about the world, everything, these drug laws are not working. And I don't really think that it did help. I think that it caused more problems. And I think that this site and some of the folks that were working with us actually did prove that, and I don't think that it did stop the violence, and it may have gotten some guns off the street, but I think that there's other ways that we could get guns off the street without harassing the marijuana smokers. But regardless,
harassing the marijuana smokers.
Regardless,
nobody's harassing the marijuana.
Oh well, as a marijuana smoker, I can assure you they harass us. Okay,
well,
not all police officers.
Here's what you guys should do now. Now, in my opinion, and I tell you all this all the time. California has tried to do it. Mm-hmm. You need to go to your state legislators.
We are.
And get them to change the law to where it becomes whatever.
You are absolutely correct.
That's where that's argument.
It's actually Congress.
Yeah, well,
the federal Congress.
Whomever you all need to go to, but you not a little guy like me down here at the local level.
You did a great job. I know that. Let me say this, Councilman. I know that you did it with heart and that you really thought it was going to be good for our city. So regardless of your beliefs, you still, in the end, did the right thing and was that fifth vote to overturn that law, even though you were behind putting it on the books.
But I could have easily have said
yes, you could have.
And there were some other things. But there's a lot of things that has to be changed. Our budget is a mess. And I'll be the first one to tell you that. I'm gonna make it my special case to show you all that the cost that you all are alleging is not the
I would
case.
appreciate it if you could get us some different facts than what the city's already given us.
Okay, all right, I'll get you some different facts.
I appreciate that. But again, you didn't have to do that. In that, you were that deciding vote. And that's why we wanted to thank you. Because we knew that it was very hard for you to do that. We knew where you stood.
It really was.
And it really was. And I kind of saw an irony in the whole thing, that you are a retired African-American police officer, and it was another retired African-American police officer that actually put it on the table to repeal it.
Yeah.
Did that have any influence on you, that it was kind of a, I don't want to say a tit for tat, but between two council people that both have different opinions, as well as some of the other folks? I'm just curious to know your feelings on that.
Well, yeah, I don't have any real opinion in that.
Okay.
I mean, he's entitled to do
Yes.
whatever he feels he needs to do. But the issue still, from my vantage point, seeing folks being shot as a result of marijuana.
The drug war, yes, I agree with
Marijuana
that.
deals going bad.
Absolutely, you're
you're
absolutely correct.
And folks saying, well, no, nobody gets shot over marijuana.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
they do.
absolutely they do.
And seeing the insurmountable number of young people
That's right.
that we see and I'm talking very young, high school students coming into when I was on the force, I did undercover narcotics for years. I worked in around, and I would stake out areas early in the morning and see the young high school students coming in from other parts of the city to buy their marijuana on Vine Street, which was marijuana.
The black
Way,
market.
which was marijuana way at the time. All of that, those kinds of things. Now, so my point is this. Our surrounding communities of Kentucky and Indiana have the laws that we had here prior to this repeal. So we fashion a law here to be similar to theirs. And in fact, it was very interesting. I had a number of people come up to me and say, "Man, why'd you do that?" Now I can't come in Cincinnati and buy my marijuana anymore. I got to go to Norwood. I got to go to Lincoln Heights. I got to go to some of the other suburban communities because it's still a minor misdemeanor out there.
They still got to go through Cincinnati to get back to Kentucky or Indiana, though.
Well, they come into, but I'm referring to individuals who would come in. Some of the young folks that were coming into downtown Cincinnati. They chose to stay out of coming into Cincinnati because our law changed. But you had surrounding suburban communities where the law was still the state law. So,
Still against the law to sell marijuana, though.
well,
whether you're in
the seller,
Norwood or
but-
Kentucky.
Yeah, and here's another thing that was so interesting. I had an 18-year-old mother came up and thanked me because she did not know her son was smoking marijuana. And see, under the old law, if you're 18 and you just paid a ticket, mama never knew. Well, under the new law, you was actually physically arrested.
Well, I don't want to digress into the debate of whether marijuana is good for somebody or not good for somebody, because that's certainly a topic for another day. But I can assure you, though, that if marijuana were legal, there wouldn't be anybody being shot over it unless they're just trying to rob somebody like they do a Blockbuster.
Let's talk about that for a minute.
Okay.
We always say, well, let's legalize it, and that the crime rate would go way down. Do you really believe that?
Absolutely. Did it not happen during Prohibition?
No, let me tell you what happened. No,
Did it happen during
the
Prohibition?
only reason it worked for Prohibition was because it's very difficult to manufacture alcohol. Very difficult. You got to have a still, distill, and all that.
Not
kind of
that
stuff.
hard. You can brew it in anybody's basement, honey.
However, marijuana you can grow anywhere. Anywhere.
That's the beauty of the plant.
All right, and here's what will happen. The state will legalize it. Now you're selling it over the counter, right?
Just like California and a
Okay.
few other states.
Now, if I can grow it, knowing I can grow it in my home, I'm gonna become a seller. I'm gonna undersell the state.
Well, nobody wants the state to sell it, number one.
Well, whoever sells
Okay,
it.
and here's the thing. When Prohibition ended against alcohol, the price of alcohol dropped. And every year after that, the murder rate dropped as well. Now, okay. So if marijuana were legalized today, and let's say, for instance, you could go down the street and buy it at a store, the prohibition prices is what's creating the crime of criminals trying to rob and murder pot dealers, for instance, in California. This is still happening because in the dispensaries where medical marijuana is legally sold and in some areas taxed in California, they are still being robbed and they are still being murdered in their own dispensaries because the inflation prices are still there.
So now let me ask you this. You got a state like California, extremely, most liberal state.
On some issues.
On some issues like marijuana. Why is it that they could not pass that?
Well, that's a debate for another day because, you see, unfortunately, the marijuana medical, there are dispensaries, believe it or not, that actually put money into the no on Prop 19 because they see it as a competition.
Well, but see, here's the thing. Okay.
They want to keep the prices inflated.
But you talk of medical marijuana. I have no problem with medical marijuana.
You would be willing to get an ordinance in Cincinnati for medical marijuana?
Well, hear me out before you might not like what I'm going to say. If it's prescribed by a doctor
Yes.
and distributed by that doctor.
They don't want that, though. That makes the doctor a distributor. The doctors don't distribute drugs today.
Well, no, I'm saying that they write the prescription.
It's a recommendation. It's not really a prescription.
No, I'm talking about a prescription now.
Yes.
If a doctor, if an individual goes to his doctor and he's diagnosed for whatever the case may be, cancer, and he needs medical marijuana for the pain or whatever, doctor writes a prescription and dispenses the drug through that prescription. I have no problem with that. I don't know, and nobody has any problem with that, I don't think, because that's done today in the state of Ohio, right here in the city of Cincinnati.
That's not true. There is no doctor allowed in the state of Ohio to recommend marijuana.
No. I'm going to tell you it is, because my ex-wife, who I was married to, had cancer. She had a form of cancer, and she was prescribed marijuana.
Where did she get it?
From the doctors. It was a prescription. It was in pill form.
Marinol.
That's called Marinol, Councilman.
Whatever.
That is not marijuana.
Well, they had marijuana.
That is a legal pharmaceutical
So
drug.
what's the difference between that and the actual leaf?
Synthetic.
One is synthetic, and it is only one chemical, the THC, whereas the plant has over 200 cannabinoids that work together.
But the
to heal.
THC is used to treat whatever her symptoms were.
Just nausea. It is only prescribed as for nausea for people that have
See, I'm
cancer.
going to show you how limited my knowledge is, right?
Well, I
don't know.
appreciate you admitting that.
But the question comes, though, is that what other uses will you use it for?
Many, many others.
Like what?
I use it for menstrual cramps.
Oh,
I use it for headache.
But you can take Tylenol.
What, that's not medical?
No.
But what if I don't like to take Tylenol because it hurts my stomach?
Well, but see, other folks use the same drug for other uses. They
That's
abuse
right.
the drug.
Yeah,
So,
you can use
and then-
Tylenol for headache, and for muscle cramps. That's two different things that
pain,
Tylenol is used
pain,
for.
pain.
General pain.
Yeah.
Marijuana does the same thing, but only doesn't hurt you when you
Yeah,
use it.
but the other portion of the marijuana is that what does it do?
It does absolutely wonderful things to the person.
I never smoked. I'm sorry.
So you really don't have any basis for
Let me
saying that
back
it's
up.
bad,
I'm gonna
right?
back up. I did. I tried it when I was, and this is the honest to God truth. I was like 17, and we were all in the car together, me and my friends, and they passed the joint back to me, and I'm like, and I had the worst headache in my life.
Sometimes
I did
that
something
happens.
wrong, I guess, and I had this crazy headache. And I said, I'd never touch that stuff again.
It affects people differently, but just as aspirin affects some people differently, right? So my question to you then, when you were 17 years old and that joint got passed to you, if an officer would have pulled that car over and arrested all of you, should you have been charged with marijuana and gone to jail for it?
Absolutely, because it was a law, it was wrong.
So
And back then they were sending people to jail for 40 years for selling drugs.
you're that old?
Absolutely. I bet you know that, don't you? Back then was the time marijuana was serious.
I want to make another point
Yeah.
because our state has actually been decrimmed since 1971. It's only been a payout ticket. And on the Kentucky issue, there are folks right now in committee that are about to vote on a decrim for Kentucky to where nobody will be arrested, whether it's across the river or in Louisville or Lexington.
Do you think that'll pass?
Absolutely, it's going to pass.
We'll see.
Yeah. So see, they're going to end up coming more our side. Kentucky's going to turn to where we are as decrim.
Well, I think, I don't know.
That's just in the news in the past week that Kentucky's getting ready to do that.
Yeah.
So they have also learned that incarcerating marijuana smokers is not only a burden on the taxpayers, it's a burden on the prison system and everything else. So there are so many different things that we could talk about, and I would love to talk further, but I don't want to take any more of your time
I
up.
appreciate
but,
that.
I understand that you come from a police perspective. So my encouragement would be then to go look for the organization LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. They are at leap.cc, and many, many retired officers just like yourself would stand on our side and debate the issue with you.
Well, and then there are many officers that will stand on this side.
Absolutely there is. My question, again, the question is what is really helping our society? Is it, and again, you're not going to sit here and legalize marijuana tomorrow in the city of Cincinnati. But my question then would be, if there was something put in front of the council for allowing doctors to legally prescribe medical marijuana in this city. Would you vote for that if you support the medical patient?
Well, it depends on what they're prescribing it for. You know, I'm not saying to prescribe it for a headache.
You don't think that if I have a headache, I should be able to smoke a joint instead of take the pharmaceutical drug that I know hurts me?
No, I don't think that should be.
Are you a doctor that you can tell me what I should use medically?
What I am is telling you my perspective.
Yes.
Okay. And in my perspective, no, I would not want marijuana prescribed for a headache. No.
Okay. So you would rather than
I can't speak about menstrual cramps. I never had them.
That's right. So you wouldn't know whether it helped or not.
I'm sorry.
So you wouldn't know whether it would help or not, then, would you?
Well, you know, no, I can tell you, all I can tell you is that Tylenol works.
Works for some.
Yeah. So no, I would not. I have not seen enough data to suggest that marijuana has been prescribed as a painkiller for headaches. You know.
All the time in California. I'm a medical marijuana patient from California, and that's why it was prescribed to me.
Is that what you got on your shirt there, the marijuana?
Do I get a copy of the shirt? This came from the original organization in California who got Prop 215 passed. Okay.
Well, you guys just...
Here we go. I can't read it.
No. You guys, everybody's entitled to their positions on this. Is why we have a country called America, where we got democracy.
Absolutely.
And if you can get enough people to agree with you, then you can get the laws changed and get the Congress to change it. And hallelujah, everybody live happily ever after.
And I wish we could really live happily ever after. Unfortunately, until this drug war is over, whether it's against marijuana or other drugs, I don't think we're going to live happily ever after. I think the crime rate's going to continue to go up, the murder rate's going to continue to go up, and the prison industrial complex will continue to get bigger and inflated, and more people will lose their lives. And so I hope for all of us that this drug war is over soon, because from what I see, it's just getting worse, and it's making a lot of people rich, and the wrong people are going to jail. Unfortunately, we have rapes and robbers and murders going on every day, and some of it is drug related, but it's drug war related. As I stated in front of council a few years ago when this got started, I don't see any hot dog vendors out there shooting each other over their turf. Maybe if we gave permits to the people that were selling the drugs and allowed them to pay their taxes and be legitimate citizens, there would be no reason for them to shoot each other. That doesn't mean that some guy who wants to rob something isn't going to go rob a store any more than we can stop them from robbing a bank. Do we outlaw banks? Do we outlaw Blockbuster video stores when they get robbed? Obviously not. It's money that draws the robberies. And unfortunately, the drug war has the drugs inflated prices, prohibition prices, and that's where the money is. And that's why the thugs in the street and the criminals want business. If that business was taken out of their hands and put in, even if the criminal becomes legitimate, I don't care. The point is that the violence against innocent people will stop, just like it did when we stopped prohibition of alcohol. So that is my perspective that I want you to understand.
I hear what you're saying.
Let's look at a society that doesn't have these drugs. We have Spain, we have a lot of other countries, Holland, although they're trying to do what we're doing because it's going to make a lot of people rich.
They don't have the drugs in the magnitude that we have them.
That's why our drug war has created that, Councilman.
Well,
that's what's created it.
We're an open, free society.
But we don't.
Our laws are a lot different, and it allows folks to do things, that other countries they could not do.
Well, one last thing I would like to say: would you go to Mexico right now in Acapulco for vacation?
Would I go? No,
yes.
Of course not.
Why wouldn't you?
Too much violence.
And why is there violence in Mexico?
Oh, because of the drug war.
Thank you. Councilman, thank you for your time. You know we really appreciate it. We really do.
You guys
even if you just felt like you were duped into it, it doesn't matter. You still did the right thing in the end.
Well, yeah. It ain't over till it's over.
That's right. That's right. And for the record, some people think that this law has not been lifted. This was an emergency budget on December 30th, which means that law was repealed that evening. Is that correct?
Or was funding stopped?
I'm not sure. I have to look at the...
This is what I was told by the mayor's office, as well as the clerk's office.
That's what they told you, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah, and just as the original ordinance was an emergency vote.
Yeah, well, the whole budget was
and then this whole budget was an emergency budget. So that would mean that it has been lifted. So there are no officers that are arresting anybody as of that date, correct?
Probably
that you know of?
that I know of. Yeah. See, it's up to the police department to retrain, to send out a staff note
Yes.
to reflect the change. That's all.
So if somebody, say for instance, an officer didn't know that and on January 3rd arrested somebody for marijuana in the city, that should be dismissed?
See, you got to
Or
talk to the city
you
solicitor's
don't know that
office about
information?
that.
Okay.
Okay.
I've had a lot of people ask me that, and we're also curious to know.
It would just be, it would probably be just a fine.
They would just have to
Yeah, just
recharge
be a
under the
fine.
state.
Yeah.
And what about somebody who was charged, let's say, December 25th before the repeal? Would that go retroactive, or would that still be tried
No,
under?
it would only apply to those that received after the budget was passed.
So you think they'll still be prosecuting those that were arrested prior?
Oh, probably. But I mean, they probably just get a fine anyway.
Well, we have attorneys trying to figure this out and talking to the prosecutor's office, and nobody seems to know. Everybody's in the dark about it.
Yeah, you would probably have to see. I'm not an attorney, and I couldn't speak on behalf of the city as relates to that. That would have to be a question to the city prosecutor's office or
Okay,
the city
well,
solicitor's office.
We will do that. Well,
Yeah.
Councilman, again,
What's your name again?
I'm Lynn Wilson,
Lynn, it's a
and
pleasure.
we are
What's your
HempRock.
name?
Charles Burns.
Charles, good to meet you, man.
We are HempRock Radio. We have a new
Hemp Rock Radio.
I'm going to give you my card, but we have
Come on with us sometime.
we have,
Huh?
Come on the radio. with us
Y'all ain't gonna
sometime.
beat me up.
and this is we would not do that. And this is HempRock TV, of course.
Hemp Rock TV. Oh man, you gonna put me on the tube?
That's
Yeah,
right.
you're gonna be on the tape.
You're going to go on public access.
Right.
Now, I want you to have our card. Our new radio station that we have is with Media Bridges.
Oh,
We are
okay.
WVQC Radio, and we're just one of the shows. And I'm also on the advisory board, so we are actually working with the
All right,
station
well,
separate
yeah.
from what we do.
All right. Well, good luck in your endeavors
Absolutely.
to legalize marijuana.
And ending the entire drug war so we can all have a safe country.
Yeah. But see, how do you? Yeah, well,
We'll talk.
I mean, you started with crack, and now we got all these other.
I agree. And what created all those other drugs?
Well,
Marijuana prohibition.
No, no, they didn't. No. I think what we have all of these. We got Afghanistan and all of the what do you call it over there? What's the drug they got over there?
Opium.
Opium.
Yes.
We got all of that, and we're not the only country that's having these problems. It's all over everywhere.
I agree, but tell me something. First of all, let me establish, I am normally one that tries to make sure that people don't get addicted to pharmaceutical drugs that derive from opium. And unfortunately, the pharmaceutical industry is getting everybody sick and everybody addicted. And then what happens is their medicine gets yanked, and then they have to go to the street to get heroin.
Pain pills.
Well, first they get addicted by the pain pills, then because they can't get pain pills as easily, because they get cut off or something, then they go to the streets. What has actually, again, caused major problems with this is, again, the prohibition of it, which then brings in criminals element who then want to import it. And let's just say, since you have a gentleman from the Army waiting to speak to you, he's waiting for you. When we went in and invaded Afghanistan, that's when the opium business went up.
Well, okay. Well, look, the best way to avoid all of this conversation is to be like me. Stay healthy. You don't need any drugs. Look at that.
And I bet you I'll still live longer than you.
I bet.
Because I smoke pot.
You are. I bet you. I'll pay up.
How old do you think I am?
You probably about.
I'm going to hit you. I'm just kidding.
About 46.
I'm 51.
She's gonna kiss.
Would you believe I have a son 34 years old at the end of this month?
Get out of here. I said, well, you're living good. Stay off that marijuana. You live
I
longer.
quit cigarettes instead. I only smoke the illegal.
Oh, Lord.
I quit the legal 16 years ago after smoking it for 25 years.
If you're 50, what you say?
One.
Okay, well, I got you a number of years. I'll be 60.
Really? Well, you look fantastic.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Councilman.